Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce. How you doing?
Hey, David. How you doing tonight?
Well, that's a pretty disappointing hockey game to come up short in such a big game, and especially the way it started, Bruce. Just very frustrating. The Oilers lost 6-3 to the LA Kings. Any initial thoughts or?
Yeah, some 24 shots against in 24 minutes for Stuart Skinner tonight. He didn't get a whole lot of help, and he was gone about 4 minutes into the second with 3 goals against, all of them power play goals, and they were just skating uphill all night because they were trailing right from the beginning, and LA showed one of the ways to protect a 2-0 lead is to keep scoring goals, right? The other way is to keep the other team down. Either one works. But the way LA did it tonight, the way they did it last time in Edmonton was 2 goals was enough for them to win, essentially 2-1. And tonight
the Oilers,
was a very different game.
The Oilers are just a crappy defensive hockey team, Bruce. They're just a crappy defensive hockey team. And they've got to figure this out. All of these guys, I don't know, another team meeting. Anyway, this is our 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers podcast. We'll go with 2 bad things each because this was a big game, very disappointing loss, and there was lots of bad things that happened. What's your first good thing, Bruce?
Oh, we're going to go good thing first?
Sure.
Okay, well, I'll take McDavid's goal that made it 5-3 in the third and briefly got the Oilers, it seemed, back in the game when he came back on the neutral zone, lifted the guy's stick, stole the puck off of him, and then came doing his McDavid dangle into the opposition zone with, just so much shiftiness. And then, he wound up basically opening a lane for himself for a clean shot from an angle, but he buried it top corner, and it was really the only pure goal that Edmonton got in this game. They got a couple of, deflection type goals in tight to the net. And this was the one pretty one that Edmonton got. LA actually got a couple of pretty goals, but this was probably the goal of the night. And it was a brief moment of enjoyment.
It was, and it was suddenly 5-3, and that goal is very Gretzky-esque, Bruce, in that Wayne Gretzky always used to do that kind of pickpocket back check on players. He would come back so hard.
Yes.
This is one of the things that the great players have in common. They might not be great in their own zone, but on the back check in the offensive end, in the offensive and neutral zone, when they have a chance to win back that puck, because they know good things are going to happen. Man, they are fantastic doing that. And McDavid and Gretzky are both superlative on the back check in those 2 areas of the ice. And, a minute later, less than a minute later, Evan Bouchard made a really nice pass to McDavid in the neutral zone. He put it over to Yamamoto, who put it off the post. And that's kind of the end of the game, really, because it was such a great scoring chance, and they just did not convert. The grade A shots in this game, by the way, were 16 each, with LA with 10 5-alarm shots, and the Oilers with 7. So the Oilers had the LA had slightly better shots than the Oilers on net, more dangerous shots, but this was very close in a lot of ways. This game, it was 7-7 on the power play for grade A shots, but the Kings did have the more dangerous shots on the power play. That's for sure. They were just cutting, slicing, and dicing the Edmonton Oilers. Anyway, Bruce, my good thing is the Oilers goal that preceded that. It was their second goal. And it was one of the rare goals where the Oilers scored off the face-off. Who knew that they could also do that? And it was great to see Draisaitl.
California.
It was close to a Californian. It was a semi-Californian. It wasn't like right off the deflected in or anything like that. But Draisaitl won the face-off, and Philip Broberg, I thought, made a really nice play, which is a kind of an underrated play. The setup shot for the one-timer.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, not everyone can do it in the heat of the moment. Like put it right where it needs to go with the right weight. And he put it right over to Bouchard with the right weight, and Bouchard hammered it. And I wish we're seeing a lot of kind of Bouchard lob shots and wrist shots. I wish he would slap it a lot more. I think the slap shot does a couple things, Bruce. It can end up ricocheting around like that, like this one did, and going to Ryan McLeod in the slot and going in for a goal. It also hurts the opposition players. I think we've seen about 10 to 10 times this year where he's unloaded the shot and it has hurt the other guys. If you keep doing that, they will back away. They will not get hurt. They will not put themselves into a position where they're going to get hurt, or at least they'll think about it. If he just keeps hammering away, I think that's the play for Evan Bouchard. He's got an Al McInnes, not quite like slap shot. He has a hell of a slap shot though. I wish he would do that far more often in a game, is just unleash it like that. And this time he did, and it ricocheted around, and McLeod picked it up and put it in the net. Great play by the Edmonton Oilers off the face-off.
Yeah, well, yeah, Bouchard tried 6 shot attempts tonight, and 5 of them got blocked. So you might as well, if you're going to get blocked anyway, you might as well hammer guy with a slap shot.
Indeed. They'll think, listen, they will think twice about getting.
I have no love for the Los Angeles Kings at this particular moment in time, David. I will have to warn the listeners. But,
I hate that.
even as I was impressed by some of the things they did, the team, I don't like that team.
I hate that team. It's a strong.
I hate their goal horn. Their goal horn just sends me around the ceiling.
I hate their arena. I hate their crappy arena district. I hate the team. I hate the officials in that city when they're roughing in LA, and we're going to get to that in a second.
Started.
Yeah, I'll get started on that. What's your bad thing, Bruce? Your first bad thing?
Well, I mean, it has to be the wretched performance of Edmonton's penalty kill. I mean, I'll leave the details to you, David. But they were shorthanded for 7 times on the night. So, I mean, their inability to stay out of the box. But, I mean, some of that was Edmonton's carelessness, and some of it was what I've already called in the game grades figments of the imagination of the Stripes. A couple of them were anyway, but the fact is, when they get called, you got to kill them off, and Edmonton just failed to do that with 7 LA power plays on the night, and 4 of them turned into goals. And if I'm not mistaken, 4 of the first 5 were goals, and the other one that they didn't score on involved 3 or if not 4 grade A shots that Skinner held out early in the second period to briefly keep him in the game. But I mean, their penalty kill, they were giving up one-timers, they were getting beaten on board battles, they were giving up cross-ice passes. They gave up a breakaway, for crying out loud. How the hell do you give up a breakaway on the penalty kill? Like, really? Anyway, that wasn't good. And they just didn't get the job done. I mean, they were shorthanded. Actually, Edmonton had more penalty kills than LA did. But Edmonton actually had almost 4 fewer minutes on the penalty kill than LA did, because LA's power plays were so short. You know, they'd get a penalty and then they'd score right away on the power play. I mean, one of them took 8 seconds. I'm not sure what the total time is, and I'm not going to waste the listeners' time by figuring out on the fly here. But I can tell you this: in 8 minutes and 5 seconds, the other team got 12 shots and 4 goals, both of which are absolutely wretched numbers. And there's a big problem on the PK, and tonight it showed major cracks.
They got sliced open by cross-ice passes, Bruce, and you just cannot have that. That's the one thing you really have to guard against. It's the hallmark of a dysfunctional, mediocre power play, is allowing the diagonal or cross-ice passes, and the Oilers just allowed them constantly this game. Credit the Kings. They have some high-skilled players who can execute those passes, and they did tonight. But the Oilers were just, their sticks were in the wrong places. And my bad thing is actually, I'll just break down the first goal. because it looked like you were saying that you saw great execution on this goal, and there
I did.
was great execution. There was also some small mistakes,
Yeah.
especially by I thought Connor McDavid on this play.
Hmm.
And the first mistake is he's the high man, and they're playing this three guys down the middle of the ice, or two, kind of two guys down the middle of the ice and the defenseman in front of the net. And McDavid's the high guy, and Yamamoto's right behind him on the guy in the high slot. McDavid's going out to cover Doughty. You can't get too close to Drew Doughty. You can't get too close to that defenseman. Like if you charge out to him, it's now a 4-on-3 down low.
Yeah.
McDavid charges out to Drew Doughty. He is out of position with over aggressive play. And that's why the goal happens, not just because of that. So he's out of position. And then what does he do? He loops around to get back in the play. Now, by then, it was too late anyway. By him getting out of position, it was
Yeah.
already too late. But looping around like that, that is not how a defensive player covers, kills a penalty. You stop and you start. When the puck, your charge out there, the puck goes the other way, you stop and you charge back the other direction. You don't loop around. And that's what he did. So first of all, getting out of too high up, just not by much, by 3 or 4 feet, too high up, and then by looping around, suddenly the puck goes into the high slot, very high slot, where it's a tough play for Yamamoto to stop that off, partly because there's no back pressure from McDavid, who
Yeah.
should be right there. And the puck goes over and gets slammed in the net, which is a great play by LA. But I thought there was defensive breakdowns, a defensive breakdown specifically by McDavid on the play. Now others might not see it, but that's how I saw it. On the second one, the second LA goal, the puck goes into the corner, and Brett Kulak is there first, and he has a chance. He's got enough time in that moment, to wind up and hammer that puck hard around the boards, which is the play. Like, it's a very simple play. Like, it's a fairly straightforward thing. You see defensemen do it all the time. He decided, though, to try to control the puck for some reason, and he just gave it away. And then Yamamoto got beat in the corner. And who's coming out of the corner full speed ahead on a little mini 2-on-1 in front of the net is Kevin Fiala, who puts a beautiful shot over Skinner's shoulder. And now it's 2-0.
Just like the first one, right? The shot. Like he made
Yeah,
two beautiful shots for sure.
he sure did. So it was two beautiful plays. LA's execution, Fiala's execution was spectacular on both those goals. So full credit to him. But there was mistakes by Edmonton Oilers players that if they didn't happen, maybe we don't have both of those goals against, because you're just not in that situation. And it speaks to, honestly, Bruce, I'm not sure McDavid or Kulak should be out there on the penalty kill. I don't see either of them as defensive specialists, in particular, like players who excel in their, like, in that kind of gritty stop and start half court game. As I put it sometimes, in the defensive end, when you're killing it off, like Chris Russell was excellent at it, like Adam Larson was excellent at it. They're just, they offer, McDavid's great in the open ice on the penalty kill, and he's not a bad penalty killer in a lot of ways, because he puts the fear of God in the other team, and it does have an impact on them. And Kulak is a good player at even strength, against the right kind of competition, but I don't think he's a primetime penalty killer. And maybe they called up Vinny Desharnais, 6'7", 230 pounds, excelled at the AHL level last year. He's been injured a little bit this year and hasn't played that much. Maybe he's going to be part of the answer on the penalty kill. You never know. Like, he is 25 or 26. He's an experienced player. They just need anyone who can give them what Chris Russell gave, that kind of shot blocking and defensive acumen. They're not getting it from really anyone on the penalty kill right now. Like, honestly, it's frustrating.
Yeah, well, they were 43% on the kill tonight, and that's just not going to get her done.
No, it isn't, Bruce. Okay, what's your second bad thing?
First 4 goals of the game. Yeah, I'm just going to flip that coin on the other side and hammer the Oilers power play, which had a few decent moments, but at the end of the day, they had 6 opportunities that encompassed 11 minutes and 41 seconds, and they generated just 8 shots and 0 goals. 0 for 6. Edmonton's vaunted power play, and tonight they just didn't have it. And they at least didn't have it to make that final shot. I mean, LA penalty killers obviously deserve credit, as the LA power players. LA special teams just flat out dominated this game. And I mean, the Oilers did get the second unit scored about 3 seconds after a guy got released from the box, so you could view that as a power play goal. But officially, 0 for 6. So they lost this game. So many games this year, the Oilers win the special teams battle 1-0 or 2-1, and then lose the 5-on-5 battle. Tonight they actually won the 5-on-5 battle 3-1. And they got smoked on special teams 4-0 with an empty netter for dessert.
What I noticed is what I thought was outstanding tactics by Los Angeles on the penalty kill. In terms of the Oilers usually gain the zone very easily against opposing teams. It's consistent. It's kind of awesome, actually, because when you watch most normal power plays, they sometimes really struggle to gain the zone, and they don't have a lot of offensive zone time. And one of the magic things about this power play, which is still the best in the NHL, clipping along at 31%. I don't know if that's still the historic best rate or not. It's close to it. So they just gain the zone. But tonight, on zone entry after zone entry, LA was able to pounce on them at the right moment through experienced players, hardworking players, and players making the right read. And I think they were kind of giving up almost the initial moment and then stopping that player inside the blue line. And as soon as he passed it, that's when they would pounce. I don't know if the Oilers attackers were particularly cold or out of sync, or if it was LA who made them that way. And I do think the Kings penalty kill deserves a lot of credit for that particular aspect of the penalty kill. I thought they repeatedly thwarted the Oilers in that aspect of the game where the Oilers usually excel.
Yeah, no, that was the Oilers are really having trouble. Like when they got in over the blue line, if they did, like within 10 feet inside the blue line, LA was all over them.
Yeah.
And it would more often than not, it seemed like they were chasing the puck down the ice then again right away, that they'd get jumped and 2 Kings would overwhelm 1 Oiler. And of course, the team with the power play should usually outnumber the other team around the puck, or at worst, it should be even. But LA's PK was up to the task tonight. And this was a game where the old guru, Todd McClellan, by far got the better of his young disciple, Jay Woodcroft, and it showed on the special teams battle in particular.
Do you have another bad thing? Is that what we're? Is it my turn?
I did both.
I think it's my turn.
I did the penalty kill and the power plays.
All right, so now it's mine.
Pretty. That's a lot of tonight's game for sure. It's like 20 minutes of tonight's game.
I'm gonna suggest Bruce said the old guru did a good job, but he also had a little help from the officials. And this game did not come down to officiating and mistakes by the officials, I don't think. But man, and Louis DeBrusk called it out on the broadcast itself. That was an atrocious call. That is the too many men on the ice call where Evan Bouchard is out on the ice and Barry's at the bench, and Bouchard hasn't touched it yet. And by the time he does touch it to shoot the puck, Barry's off the ice. He does not have a foot on the ice. And I don't know. I just
Bouchard was too far from the bench, so he had an advantage, they're saying.
How often do you see that level of advantage in a game, Bruce, for a player?
On a line change, about 70 times a game.
Yeah, so quite often. I
believe they called that.
Quite often.
Like the guy's coasting off the bench, and he's like 10, 15 feet from the bench, and his replacement comes over the boards, and as long as he doesn't touch the puck, it's fine.
Call. It just seemed like the linesman was sitting there, okay, as soon as he touches that puck, if that guy's foot is still on the ice, I'm going to call it. And he's sitting there waiting. And then he called it anyway, even though Barry's foot was off the ice. I mean, why didn't I hated that call, and
Mm-hmm.
turned out to be a pretty big one. Now, again, it's just another power play. You should be able to kill off power plays, but not the Edmonton Oilers this game. And then the goal that was scored, the 4-1 goal, the power play goal. I don't know, Bruce. Like, I always thought it has to be without a scintilla of a doubt to overturn the call on the on ice call. It has to be without a scintilla of a doubt. You are certain, 100% certain that puck's over the line. You're not just 99%. You're 100% certain. And I don't know, at least from the video reviews that I saw, how they could have been 100% certain. It didn't look like, to me, it was fully over the line. It looked like it might be. It looked like it might 80% of the puck was over the line, maybe 90% of the, but
Doesn't matter. That it
yeah,
has to be all over the line, and it has
got
to
to
be
be all
seen
over.
to be over the line.
Yeah, I just think they got it wrong again. And boy, does this ever happen in Los Angeles a lot? Not to, well, to sound paranoid, this happens in Los Angeles a lot and California a lot. It's the California story of the Edmonton Oilers is getting screwed by the officials on goals calls. So there's that. At least the
Yeah,
NHL
yeah. Like poor
can't
Jack
find me.
Campbell.
Yeah,
He had
poor
a
Jack
Save
Campbell.
of the Year candidate there,
Yeah,
and they took that away with a kind of, I don't know. They were saying on the radio there was one angle that seemed a little more convincing, but I never saw one that was convinced. But hey, I've only got a large screen, high definition 4K TV, whereas those officials on the ice got that nice little tablet. I'm sure they got a real nice view of it. And I mean, maybe the war room called it. I don't even know.
you got the
That's what
super slow mo too, right?
I'm just getting to the point where whatever. I'm becoming fatalistic about all this.
That's true.
They're gonna. We're in California. Didn't look like a goal. No, no worries. It's a
It's a
goal.
goal.
Sure enough, it was a goal.
Yeah.
Made it
In
4-1. David, the call of all the calls in this game, in which there were several that stunk. Uh, uh, the one that they called on Evan Bouchard for interference with like 10 minutes to go in the third period. The Oilers have just made it 5-3. Yamamoto has just hit the post. Oilers are clearly coming on, and Bouchard has got the puck. It kind of fumbles it off his stick a little bit. He goes to recover it. The LA guy comes through. Oiler picks it up from behind Bouchard, and the LA guy skates and kind of bumps Bouchard. And that was interference? Like, what? What? That was interference? Like, it was nothing. Like, it was like the slightest little bump. The Oilers had clear command of the puck. It wasn't like he was doing a huge pick play. And the ref that called it was behind all three of the guys. He was like, he must use his X-ray vision to try and determine what happened because he had a crappy viewpoint. And I tell you, I mean, right at that moment of the game, it felt like, hey, maybe Edmonton is going to get themselves back in the game. And it's like the refs are going, well, we can't have that. So, tweet. Man, I hated that call. That was brutal.
Yeah, I hear you, Bruce.
Brutal. Anyway.
Yeah.
Just another
Yes.
game in California, David.
Yeah, it is just another game in California.
I remember the time that Tom Rennie took the fine for saying the NHL wanted Hollywood in the playoffs. After the game where the only guy who could draw a penalty all night was Dustin Brown, and he drew like 3 of them.
Yep.
While committing about 8 fouls himself, none of which magically got seen by any of the stripes, standard stuff. Anyway.
Chintzy refereeing. All right, Bruce. Your number.
Yeah, here are my numbers. 8 minutes and 45 seconds. And 1 minute and 59 seconds. That's 10 minutes and 44 seconds, almost half of the ice time that Connor McDavid had tonight. And the 8:45 was the amount of time that he spent on the power play versus the measly 1:59 that he spent on the penalty kill. And over those 10 plus minutes, the Oilers got outscored 3-0. Power play never scored once in nearly 9 minutes. and the penalty kill got burned for 3 goals in just those 2 minutes that McDavid was on the ice, and he made what we identified as was one of, there's usually more than one, well, we call them culprits often, but that sounds more criminal than it really is. But guys that got beaten
Yeah.
on 2 of the 3 goals, where we saw McDavid as being part of the reason. So I don't know if that experiment has to end, but I do know that tonight he got demolished on special teams, and the Oilers got demolished on special teams, and it was just a rough night all the way around. I keep going back to this special teams theme, but it was the hockey game tonight for sure. And for Connor, he had some good moments in this game, including the goal that I named as my good thing earlier. But overall, it was a pretty ragged night for the superstar.
Yeah. Evander Kane can't get back quickly enough to be on his line, Bruce. Klim Kostin, that was a good fight. He was in a tough fight, but Klim Kostin is not a top 6 player in the NHL. And he just doesn't make plays well enough. Not even close, honestly. When you look at his contributions to grade A chances for and his mistakes on grade A chances against, he's definitely a fourth-line hockey player in the NHL right now, despite how excited everybody is about his physical play, including me. But he just doesn't get it done. And anyway, my bad thing, Bruce, is my number, is 22-9. That was the block shots. LA 22 block shots, Oilers 9. And I just think it's indicative of defensive commitment, defensive acumen. When there's a funny story in the book on NHL coaches, Dan Bylsma talks about when he first won the cup with the Penguins. I think it's 2009 or 2000. He took over the team, and they had something they called them boner plays, and it was teams that excited the people on the bench. And one of them is
that kind of boner. Okay.
Yeah, that kind of boner, a good one. And it block shots were boner plays.
We used to call mistakes boners. But.
Yeah, they can be either. So anyway, it's a funny story in that book. So anyway, the Kings, they just have that commitment right now to defensive hockey that the Oilers lack. And the Oilers don't have a lot of shot blocking specialists on the team. They don't have, that's not part of the acumen. They went from having Keith and Russell, 2 guys who made a career of it, in part. Russell made a career of it, and it was a big part of Keith's repertoire. And the Oilers they missed those 2 players on the penalty kill. And who's going to block the shots? It's like they're all Zach Cassians out there. And there's just shot after shot after shot, and none of them are blocked. Like, there's lots of one-timers. The defensemen were close to blocking those shots. So, that's a big part of the defensive issue, is that kind of self-sacrifice and mindset, which is missing from this team. And it's the reason why they're one of the worst defensive hockey teams in the NHL right now. They get sieved constantly. And it's partly through effort plays that can really jack up a team when there's that kind of commitment from defensive hockey players. I really don't like
27th in the league, David.
In goals against
and block shots.
Oh, and block shots.
Yeah, between Vancouver and Calgary, go figure. But
yeah, and let me just check in terms of goals against per game. Let me just see here, Bruce. I have to turn this around to get the right number. Edmonton is, they're 22nd. So bottom third of the league, right at the top of the bottom third, which is not a playoff team, right? And that's where they're headed if they can't figure this out. Like, I do think they need to, I was writing today about an idea I talked about last podcast about a checking line. And I do think, if you go by the work that we're doing and who's limiting the grade A shots against at even strength, Ryan McLeod's been the best center. Now, part of that is he faces not as tough competition.
Yes, of course.
And if you face tougher competition, that number would go up. But Matthias Janmark is, I think he's an outstanding checking hockey checker on the team. If you put him and McLeod, and you figure out one other guy, maybe it's Fogel, maybe it's Puljujärvi, maybe it's Yamamoto. Those are the three guys that I think are the best candidates. And their job is just to check. And you put them out there against tough competition. That it will be a commitment from Jay Woodcroft to give those players more ice time. But I think that would help the team if they can hold their own, if they can survive. And I think that hey, at this point, I would try it because what they're doing now isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And the hard matchups aren't working, and having those guys out there for some tough minutes, which now are reserved for the top two lines, all the tough minutes. If you had a checking line out there for tough minutes, it would free up either the McDavid line or the Draisaitl line to go against a lesser line. And so this is a calculated risk you'd be taking, but it would be betting on your young players. But they're already showing results. McLeod's already showing results as a defensive hockey player. Janmark is a solid defender. One of those other guys can step up and do the job, I think. And I think they should go with that. And their defensive pairings, Ceci and Nurse is so many, like when we grade the grade A shots against who makes the mistakes, there's so many grade A shots against this year where the two players singled out are 25 and 05. It's just like you go through our score sheets, it's like 25-05, 25-05. Same two guys making mistakes. They're not getting it done defensively. So I just think I'd like to see Philip Broberry with Ceci. I think that might be a better bet as a defensive unit because again they'll have that will be their mindset to defend. You put Bouchard and Nurse together to attack and to be out there with one of these attacking units. Again, what's happening now isn't working, so why not try it? I think Philip Broberry is ready to step up as a defensive hockey player. That's what I'm seeing. Some signs, some signals at least. Why not try it? Because what now isn't working? And they're just this whole thing with going with the veterans not taking a leap of faith in some younger players. I think it's time to take this leap of faith with players like Philip Broberry, Ryan McLeod, and see if they can step up into more significant roles on the team. I think there's a good chance that they could do it. So that's what I'm hoping to see in the next week.
Yeah, well, we've been waiting a while, and we seem to be going back to tried and not so true formula.
Yeah, the Tippett formula, eh?
The McClellan, Hitchcock,
McClellan, Hitchcock, Tippett. Every coach in
Uh-huh.
the end. It's like
Seems
this
like it.
black hole that's, they all get sucked into it of relying more and more on McDavid and Draisaitl and Nurse and just counting on them and thinking this is the best idea because it's so alluring to put them out on the ice. I'm sure it is as a coach. And I'm sure they're saying, play me, coach, like they want the ice time. But it doesn't really work, does it? And it's never really worked, has it? Maybe now and then for a stretch of games it has, but overall, has it ever really worked?
Yeah.
Didn't even work in the playoffs. I guess it did work in the playoffs with Draisaitl on one leg. They put him with McDavid, and that did pay off. I think they had to do that because they couldn't play Draisaitl at center, right? He just couldn't possibly function as a defensive center. So that did work in that regard. But yeah, I think he needs to really have a hard think about which players deserve more ice time and which roles can he put them in to get them more ice time and do that because
Last year it was a priority right when it came up.
yeah.
Like McLeod, like he could have left him on the fourth line, but he gave him the big role on the penalty kill, and he got him involved in the game that way. And he found inventive ways to get players playing to their strengths. And I'm not sure I'm seeing as much of that this year, and I'm seeing more of the same porridge of well, let's play the crap out of McDavid and Draisaitl separately, and then when things go wrong, let's play the crap even more out of them when together.
Yeah.
No doubt, I'm oversimplifying, but it's whatever magic was there, and I really had high hopes for this coaching staff at the beginning of the year, and right now I'm really kind of down in the dumps about it because they don't seem to have many answers.
Yeah, well, the coaches have to get to that point too where what they've been trying and trying and trying doesn't work out. And then they got to think, okay, I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something different here and
Hmm.
see if that works. And maybe that's where Jay Woodcroft is. I mean, I think he's a very bright man, obviously, and a strong hockey teacher. I mean, just like Hitchcock and McClellan were. These are all very accomplished coaches who know what they're
Hmm.
doing.
Yeah.
But there does seem to be something that, this desire, this impetus to just go with the big players. Anyway, to give Jay Woodcroft credit, last year he did figure it out, Bruce.
Yeah.
Last year he decided, okay, I'm going to play Evan. I'm going to take a chance and put Evan Bouchard with Duncan Keith. And they're going to be our second pairing, and we're going to see how that works. And it was absolutely critical to the success of the Edmonton Oilers that he did that. He put that faith in Evan Bouchard. So what he did with Bouchard last year, he should do with Ryan McLeod and Philip Broberry this year, and give those players more ice time than they're getting, I think. And in key roles as the third line center against tough competition for Ryan McLeod. Ask him to step up into that and to embrace that role this year. Like maybe next year he'll be a different player, but this is what we want you to do this year, Ryan. I think he can do it because I see the size, the speed, and the defensive acumen in Ryan McLeod, where I think he can do this, and I think Philip Broberry can do it. Man, when he is on a player, he's like glue, and he's got the size and the reach to shut down opposing players. He's not a shot blocker, and he's not a rough guy, but he's a very capable defensive hockey player with good fundamentals. So let's see if he can do it. Um, he's not. They may still need a big, rugged shot blocking defenseman, and maybe Desharnais is going to be that guy. I mean, um, although it's hard to see where he fits, Bruce, because he's a right shot guy,
Hmm.
and unless they play him on his wrong side, which is possible, where's he going to play? Who are they going to sit? So,
No, all three righties have played all 41, 42 games this season, as have two of the lefties for that matter. So it's whether they would choose to sit someone out, and I'm not sure who would that be. I mean, after a given game, you might feel this guy or that. I mean, tonight I wasn't
yeah,
totally thrilled with Cody Ceci on the right side, to tell the truth, but I don't think they'd be sitting him out. But anyway, we'll see if he gets in. But he got called up at least, and it's quite a nice story for him. Another nice story, which has implications for the upcoming games, is Stu Skinner got sent home to be with his wife for the birth of their pending birth of their, I think, first child. And so Campbell's going to play the next two games in Anaheim and San Jose, which in theory are games the Oilers should win. But you know where that theory goes to die when the Oilers actually play games, it seems like. But they've got, a big chance coming up in their schedule for the rest of the week, but they don't have their number one goalie. So see how that
21,
goes.
21 wins and 21 losses now, Bruce.
Yes.
They are real 500, which is not a playoff team.
Hmm.
It's close to being a playoff team in the NHL.
Yes.
Usually, if you're real 500, you're right in the race, and they are right in the race.
Hmm.
But without that many loser points, they're kind of in tough. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, you got your
Oh,
game grades, A to
yeah.
finish.
Yeah, I sure do. And two other quick comments. Oilers had three fights tonight and doubled their season total. They had three all year until tonight. And tonight's were, well, this was a very fractious game. There were 70 penalty minutes in this game, and there was some significant bad blood between the team. And I mean, of the 70 minutes, probably only 10 or so were fictitious. And the rest were, like coincidentals. There was a lot of nastiness in this game, like I say, three fights. And then uh, I can't let this pass without commenting on Zach Hyman's absolutely ferocious hit on Quinton Byfield, which I think is probably the hardest hit by an Oiler this season.
Wow. Yeah.
Did he ever crush Byfield? Holy moly! I had no idea Zach had that kind of physicality in him. And he got challenged by a king, and Puljujärvi got challenged by a king after he ran over a guy. And so it seemed like there was a different mindset, where two of those fights were definitely sort of instigated by LA. And only the last one was Costin against Brendan Lemieux, where it was sort of both guys very willing participants right from the start. I mean, Hyman was a willing participant too, but he was answering the call of he was being challenged by the King's bench for that hit.
Did
And so
Byfield get
he
hurt?
did. I think he went to the quiet room for a while. Like he went down. I think he might have taken some of that contact, on the point of his chin, just the way he went down. And anyway, he disappeared from the game for a while, and he did come back, and he played 9 minutes on the night. So, and I think you find a big gap there early in the second period where after he got cranked by Hyman. Oh man, was that a hard hit. So Edmonton, they weren't backing down in this game. Let's put it that way. So there's a small positive there, but not backing down, but also beating a steady path to the penalty box is not necessarily a winning formula either.
All right. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for talking.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone.
They'll win the next two.
So tired of grading losses, man. It's just so old. I'm on a real bad streak.
Are you? I've been there. Yeah, I've been there. Oh, yeah. All right, Bruce. Thanks for talking. Thanks for listening. Yeah. And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.